Leadershipisation, all things leadership. I'm Beth Bergen. I'm an internationally awarded leadership and communication coach, and I work with both individuals and teams. My coaching, as I said, is around leadership and communication, and I'm here each Wednesday at 1 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. You know, I was thinking, I've spoken with a number of clients over the last few weeks about our emotional intelligence, our IQ, and if you know mental fitness and you've done my deliberate reset program, then you would be familiar with what is called PQ. And I wanted to have a look at these and focus them back down on one of them and how it impacts on our leadership intelligence. So we know that our IQ is our intelligence quotient. We know that EQ it refers to our emotional fitness or our emotional intelligence. And we know that PQ from mental fitness relates to our positive quotient. Let's talk today about our leadership intelligence. There are lots of different styles of leadership. And when we're beginning as a leader, it can be a little bit difficult to determine which style is the best for a particular situation. And sometimes it's not just a particular situation where we need to adapt it. It may be a particular team, a particular project, or a particular individual. You will have heard the phrase, start as you mean to continue. It's really important that you start as you mean to continue. The first time I ever heard that was when I started out as a secondary school teacher. And I was just short of 20 years old. And so I was wearing really high, I remember it, I was wearing really, really high shoes because that meant that I was taller than some of the grade 12 guys. And that was helpful for me. I wasn't taller than all of them by any means. But you hear the start as you mean to continue, which really refers to you going in, being firm, and potentially being a little harder than you might want to be in the long term. However, it's based on the understanding that it's easier for you to soften up as a parent, as a teacher, as a leader, than it is for you to harden up. Okay, our team responds to the way that we're behaving towards them. Our kids respond. Our students in the classroom respond to the way that we are towards them. So when you think about that statement, start as you mean to continue, and the fact that it's easier to soften your stance than it is to harden it at times, that really begs the question. And this was what I discussed with my client. How do you actually soften your stance a little bit and still be a really effective leader? Because you might know with your leadership role, not only are you keeping your team focused and engaged and productive, you're also having to satisfy those requirements that might be coming from above. Okay, those requirements that might be coming from your managers, from higher up in the organization or the business. So I want to share with you today 6 strategies that you can embed into your leadership style that are all around understanding, communicating with your team, and really expressing some empathy. So let's get stuck into those. My apologies if you can hear any noise in the background. I printed something before I started this, and my printer has decided it needs to print that thing 4 times. It's something that was happening earlier this morning, and I should have addressed it then. We will continue. Um, the first one is this: listen, listen, listen. Be an active listener, be engaged in the listening. Listen for the words and listen for the emotions. Listen so that you can understand. Listen so that you get insights into how your team is feeling, how the individual is feeling, what they might be noticing, what might be going on in the market. Um, and listen, as I said before, listen actively so that you're an active participant. You're not just leaning back and listening. You're engaging with whoever you're listening with. This really builds that engagement. Whether it's with individuals or whether it's with your team, it absolutely helps them to feel heard and to feel understood, particularly when, as an active listener, what you're doing is listening and asking questions to demonstrate your curiosity. That's number one. The second one is empathy. Now, empathy is often lost. It's really easy to lose our empathy in pressure situations. And what we have to remember is this. It's really easy to forget this. So if you're listening and you've got a pen, write it down. Your energy is contagious. Whatever you're presenting with is going to spread like wildfire amongst your team, particularly in pressure situations. So demonstrate that empathy by putting yourself in other people's shoes and getting an idea of their perspective. It's a real must have to be empathetic because you're going to build a positive culture as a direct result of doing that. The third one is develop an open, trusting environment with your team. Develop a culture where feelings and ideas can be shared. Develop a culture where your team, individually and together, feels safe and they feel valued. Develop a team culture where trust and respect are an absolute given. If you're looking for some really good ideas about how to um, how to engage and motivate your team to create that open environment, listen to last week's live because that's exactly what I talked about. Some strategies that you can use to engage and motivate your team. Number 4, genuine humility. Genuine humility. Now, when I say genuine, that's about being authentic. That's about being real, about sharing your passion and your values. That's about being vulnerable. It's about understanding that none of us is perfect. Not even you, not even me. None of us is perfect. And because we're not perfect, we're not always going to be right. We're not always going to be right. So this genuine humility is about acknowledging, an example of that is acknowledging that you are wrong, acknowledging that you didn't get everything correct, asking for help from others. And what happens here is that shows you as being human and you're able to absolutely build your trust. You're absolutely going to enhance the relationship that you have with your team. The other really important thing is that it models that behavior for the rest of your team. They see you being vulnerable. They see you being authentic and passionate. They see you acknowledging that you need help. They see you acknowledging that you didn't get everything right. What a great role model that means that you will be for them. The fifth one is patience. Patience, patience, patience. There's a gorgeous saying about slow is smooth and smooth is fast. your team are going to have a different pace and a different style, not only to you, but potentially to each other. So work to minimize your impatience so that you don't create a tension, you don't create a stress, because that's going to lead to more mistakes, and it will ultimately, it will slow that productivity. Yeah, it will slow it. So make sure that you've got your patience switched on, because when you're not rushing yourself, you're more likely to be thinking clearly, and thinking clearly is going to create much better relationships. Yeah. The other thing to do here to demonstrate your patience is to give the team space for different paces and different styles. Because if you can give them that space, they're going to produce their best work for you. And that's exactly what you're looking for. Yeah, of course it is. The other thing to remember here is that your way, the way that you would do something, is not always, it's not always the best way or the only way of doing something. That's really important for you to remember. Your way is not always the best way or the only way. The final thing, the final number 6, celebrate, 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 celebrate. Now, a lot of these by now should be sounding like the sorts of strategies and tips that I've given you over the last few weeks, because I'm bringing these together for you to set you up for your own leadership toolkit, or what I call your leadership intelligence. Celebrate. Celebrate those successes and those wins, the small ones and the larger ones. Now, this can be as simple, it can be as simple as just a quiet word in someone's ear to acknowledge how well they've done. And it can be as over the top as a full-blown celebration. So it's up to you to determine what that looks like. Our emotional intelligence is an essential skill set for high-performing leaders, because it builds trust, it builds collaboration, and it builds that great culture. It's essential that you explore what you can be doing to build your emotional intelligence. I'm going to leave it there for today. I wanted to remind you about something, though. I wanted to remind you about this. Applications are happening currently right now for the next intake in my Deliberate Reset program. So DM me, whatever platform you're watching this on, find a way to DM me, and I will send you the link so that you can have a conversation with me. Deliberate Reset focuses on mental fitness and your leadership and your communication skills. And it's a 10-week program. I work only with a very small group, 6 to 8 people maximum. Now, some of the people that I've worked with have talked about how this is actually life-changing. Not only has it impacted them in their working space, it's also absolutely changed the way that they view things and the way that they communicate in all of their personal relationships as well. Now, it's by application only. We get together, so held over Zoom, we get together over 10 weeks for 90 minutes a week. You're with other people who are like-minded, just like you, who are on that same journey. And so not only are we having those sessions together, but I'll put you guys in a WhatsApp group, and you'll be able to communicate and share your daily wins and successes with each other. So it's all about, I guess, improving that leadership intelligence at the same time as you're improving your positive intelligence. So I'd love to hear from you. In the meantime, if you have watched this and you're watching a replay, hashtag replay below. Would love to answer your questions or to hear from you with comments. Thank you and enjoy your